Hello, and welcome to ShipU Stats. In this video, we're going to go over a two-way within subjects ANOVA. A two-way within subjects ANOVA will allow us to compare groups classified by two independent variables, both of which are within subject or repeated measures variables. A two-way within subjects ANOVA will allow us to examine the influence of two independent variables, both of which are within subjects variables or repeated measure variables, on an outcome or dependent variable. We'll also be able to examine the interaction between these two variables. For example, we could compare the effectiveness of two stress reduction programs in the same participants before and after both of those programs spaced a month apart. For a two-way within subjects ANOVA, we'll need to meet the following assumptions. First, we're comparing measurements defined by two within subjects variables. The measurements are interval or ratio scale. Our data is approximately normally distributed. There are no substantial outliers in the dataset, and the variances of the differences between all combinations of measurements are equal. This is also known as sphericity. To set up our data for a two-way within subjects ANOVA, we'll have to enter separate columns for each individual time measurement. Remember, our different time measurements are classified by two different independent variables. Here we have before and after, as well as treatment 1 and treatment 2. So we have a column for before treatment 1 and after treatment 1. We have a column for before treatment 2 and after treatment 2. Remember, each row represents a person, so that all of the scores for that individual at all four different time points here are all in the same row. All right, now that we have our data set up, we can go run our analysis in JASP. Now that we have our data in JASP, the first thing we need to do is make sure all of our variables are set to scale variables. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and click on ANOVA and then go to Repeated Measures ANOVA. Once we're here, the first thing we're going to need to do is to name our within subjects variables or repeated measures factors. I'm going to name our first one here time and label those levels before and after. Our second one is our type of stress reduction treatment. So I'm going to name that treatment. And I'm going to label those T1 for the first treatment and T2 for the second treatment. Now that I have those entered, you'll see I have some options down here for different cells. I'm going to go ahead and put before treatment here, before treatment for our second one here, after treatment here, and after the other treatment there. Make sure that you line these up perfectly, otherwise JASP won't run this analysis correctly. All right, when we come over here to our ANOVA table, you'll see that we have our different variables and residuals or error for each of them. Here in this particular situation, there's no effect of time, there's an effect of treatment, and an effect of treatment by time. Because we have significant effects, the next thing we should do is run our follow-up tests. First, I'm going to grab my descriptive statistics to get my mean and standard deviations of all of our different measurements. I'm then going to go ahead and go to post hoc tests and get my interaction term and select Bonferroni to get my Bonferroni correction. And now I can see the differences between all of the different measurement time points. From here, I'm going to go ahead and click on descriptive plots, and I'm going to move over time to the horizontal and treatment to the separate lines. This will allow me to see those differences. It looks like the stress levels are the same for both different treatment groups before the treatment, and higher after the first treatment type, and lower after the second treatment type. All right, now that I have all my means and standard deviations, as well as my ANOVA results and my table, I can go ahead and write this up in APA format. To write up the results of our two-way within subjects ANOVA, we need to convey to the reader the type of analysis we ran, in this case, a two-way within subjects ANOVA. We then need to report the results of that ANOVA. In this case, a two-way within subjects ANOVA revealed no significant effect of time, a significant effect of treatment, and a significant interaction between time and treatment on stress levels. I then reported my F values with my degrees of freedom between and within, the actual F value, and the P value for all three of my effects. Because we had significant results, we conducted some post hoc Bonferroni tests. So we need to convey to the reader the type of post hoc test that we conducted. So we list that here. From there, we have to report the actual results of those tests. In this case, the before the first treatment group and before the second treatment group had no significant differences from each other. However, there was an increase before the first treatment and after the first treatment, and a decrease before the second treatment and after the second treatment. So we can write that up over here. Post hoc Bonferroni tests showed that stress levels were significantly lower after the second type of treatment. I provide the mean and standard deviation compared to all other measurements, and were significantly higher after the first type of treatment compared to all other measurements, again with the means and standard deviations. All right, that's how we write up a two-way within subjects ANOVA in APA format.